Hello everybody, it's Palm Sunday. No, I haven't gone crazy with too much time at home without distractions in church. I'm wearing this to make a point that Palm Sunday was a day of rejoicing. We remember Jesus entering Jerusalem, riding on a donkey, with crowds of people cheering for him. The Jewish people had been waiting for hundreds of years for the Messiah to come and rescue them, and here he was. Remember the last time that Wales won the Grand Slam in the Six Nations? The mood of joy in the streets, in the pubs, in the homes all across the nation, in the stadium. They were celebrating everywhere. There was so much joy. That is the mood of Palm Sunday. But why did Jesus ride in on a donkey? William Barclay, the Scottish priest and preacher, says this. In Palestine, the donkey was not a despised beast, but a noble one. When a king went to war, he rode on a horse. When he came in peace, he rode on a donkey. Nowadays, the donkey is a beast of amused contempt, but in the time of Jesus, it was the beast of kings. But we must note what kind of a king Jesus was claiming to be. He came meekly and lowly. He came in peace and for peace. They greeted him as the son of David, but they did not understand him. When Jesus rode into Jerusalem that day, he claimed to be king, the king of peace. His action was a contradiction of all that men hoped for and expected. And we must remember that Jesus rode in, celebrating with these people, knowing that they were welcoming him, but knowing that they would reject him within the week. Within a week from Palm Sunday, he would die on the cross. He knew this. He was preparing himself for death. His disciples weren't really aware of what was going on, even though he'd warned them, but he knew that he was coming to Jerusalem to die. And he did that for us. Why? Why did he put himself through this? It's because, just like the crowd, just like those people who welcomed him, we're not perfect. We go from being good and true and holy to being bad. We make mistakes, we sin. We can't judge those people too harshly because we too have good and bad in us. And those bad things, those sins, they create a barrier that stops us getting to God. And Jesus knew that he had to die and rise again to remove that barrier, to make a way for us to come to God again. And he was willing to do that for us. He was willing to do that for me, for you, for all of us. That's how loving and how amazing and wonderful Jesus is. And the people didn't understand this. They wanted a king who would lead them on earth, who would fight the Romans, throw them out of the promised land, re-establish the kingdom of Israel. They were looking back to the glory days. Why did they turn against Jesus? Because he wasn't the kind of king they wanted. They were looking for an earthly king, for a warrior. But Jesus was coming to establish a heavenly kingdom, to open the way for us to get to heaven, to live with God forever. He was focusing on the heavenly kingdom, not the earthly kingdom. The people who celebrated with Jesus were focused on this world, this time, whereas Jesus was trying to lift their eyes to heaven, lift their focus from the earth to the heaven, from now into eternity. It is hard to focus on God instead of on our day-to-day worries and concerns and all the tasks we have to complete. The promise of heaven can get lost in all the noise and the busyness and the distractions of life. This is the one thing that we can make positive out of this really sad and worrying time, is that we have more time to spend on Jesus, more time to focus on praying, getting ourselves right with God, to come to him with our worries and our concerns, and for him to give us an eternal perspective so that we're not just focused on the here and now, but on eternity, which is where he wants us to keep our focus. Phil Green writes about waiting. He says, whether waiting in the queue at the post office or waiting to hear the results of a medical test, waiting is hardly ever a pleasant experience. The Israelites had some pretty dark days. However, they also had a glimmer of hope. The prophets had spoken about a Messiah, someone who would come and make everything okay. They waited in the dark for the light. Waiting is a common theme in the Bible. Abraham had to wait for a son. Joseph had to wait for his dream to come true. The Israelites had to wait to enter the promised land. Remember, they travelled around the desert for 40 years. And then they had to wait for the Messiah to come. However, just think what God taught them and how he shaped them through the process of waiting. Today, we are not waiting for the Messiah in the same way the Israelites were. However, we still experience waiting. We wait for God to fulfill his promises for the future that we read in the Bible. We wait to experience what we believe God has planned for our lives. We wait for God to work in the lives of those we love. We wait for the light to begin shining in dark places. And at the moment, we wait for an end to this awful pandemic. We spend so much time waiting, you would have thought we would be good at it. However, most of us are not. We need to learn to wait well. He asks us to ponder, what are we waiting for at the moment? What might God be trying to teach you through this waiting period? How might he be speaking to you now? And then he gives us this prayer. Faithful God, give me the patience I require to wait for your plans to come to pass. Give me the wisdom I require to learn the lessons you are trying to teach me as I wait. And give me the faith I require to know that your plans always prevail. Help me to not only accept, but to embrace the value of waiting. Amen. God bless you all.